everyone, and welcome to a fantastic event that we have planned this evening. And it wouldn't be an RLM stream if we did not have fantastic cars and drivers on tap for you this evening. But we have a special treat in the booth today. I'm Jesse Lee, by the way. Operating the cameras is Nick Setnick, and we have the man behind the madness, the man who created this event with us today. Mike, how are you doing?
Jesse, I am doing amazing today. I've been excited about the Hungaro event here for a few weeks since we put this one on the calendar, and I think it's going to just be an exciting early morning race. If you can tell by the clock on the stream there, it is currently 7:30 a.m. here at Hungaroring, and 7 a.m. will be race start time as well. Of course, we'll be bringing you the pro split today. Various drivers in here, notables from previous RLM events, as well as some new drivers. I noticed a couple of Redline Motorsports drivers. Even Elvin Smith has arrived today, Jesse.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We've got a lot of fresh faces and new names competing for the first time in RLM competition today. But as Mike Jones has just said, we also have a lot of returning drivers in this race, a lot of high-profile ones at that, and one of which is Elvin Smith. We also have Matt Samuel, British drifting champion, in the field tonight. It's going to be fantastic, as this is sort of a precursor, I believe, to the Night Owls Championship. Isn't that right, Mike?
That is correct, yeah. In case anybody hasn't caught it yet, our Night Owl Championship, which will be kind of streamed more in the American time zones for some of our American racers and perhaps even the Australia racers, or, hey, even you Europeans that like to stay up late. That will start qualifying on May 9th, and of course you can check out our Discord for information about that stream. And this is kind of just a little preemptive event, as Jesse says. Of course, the three of us, me, Jesse, and Nick, all being Americans ourselves, we decided we wanted to see some American action. It is just shy of 4 p.m. here for me and Nick, and around 7 p.m. for Jesse, so might be midnight out there in Europe for you guys, for anybody watching there. But hey, Americans like racing too, don't we, Nick?
We absolutely do. Race fans, I'm super excited to be here. Like Jesse and Mike mentioned, I will be operating cameras for us today, and just trying to keep the action primed and ready for all of you viewing at home. And just coming around the field here, just checking out some, as we love to talk about, some wonderful liveries on our cars today at this early morning Hungaroring 90-minute race. Any of note, Jesse, that you're kind of catching your eye today?
You know, I haven't actually seen too many cars, so I think the one that you're focused on right now, this number 58 Aston Martin, I've never seen a black and white Aston Martin ACC, and certainly not seen one in this particular livery, but I gotta say, it's actually quite striking. You normally wouldn't see an all-black Aston Martin or a black Aston Martin with white flashes on it, but it's sort of grabbing me here a little bit. I like it. I like the little extra swooshes on the arches as well. It's not, like I said, it's not something I would typically see around here, and it's nice to actually see something like that. I like a lot of these guys, too, while we're talking about liveries. They have brought different liveries from their normal ones that they would run, and a lot of these guys, again, we're seeing for the first time, so we're seeing their creative juices come out in some of these cars, like that really bright highlighter color. I believe that's a NSX right there in front of him as well.
Yeah, definitely some beautiful liveries out here. You know, perhaps they change them for the early morning race. Perhaps they change them just because it's a little bit of a night race for them. I know a couple people in here from the European continent. If we can check in on car number 7 and car number 910, for example, Mr. Truglio, one of our Redline Motorsports drivers. You'll recognize that team from even the 12-hour Suzuka. One of his teammates won, Racing Line Motorsports, not Redline Motorsports. My apologies. Racing Line Motorsports, of course, won our 12-hour Suzuka event. And this is B. One of their teammates as he finds himself out on the grass as practice time wraps up here. And here's Bianche as well, his teammate again in the Porsche, and those very similar liveries from them. Nice bright and white and black Porsche from the look of it there. And we will see these guys running qualifying here very shortly as he gets a little drift coming around the corners as practice wraps up here.
That is always great to see them having a little bit of fun before we get into this race here.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Indeed. And the practice session is over. And Mr. Mike Jones, while you are the architect behind the madness, that's the word I was looking for earlier that slipped my mind. My word, look at that blue, red, and lime green Porsche there. They got a hold of a crayon box and they were dead set on using every single one of them, but that's neither here nor there. Mike Jones, I was going to ask you, since you are the architect of this, can you walk us through how long qualifying is, even though they can see it now, what time it will take place, how long the race will be, and how long that will take place?
Absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, as you can see across the top of the screen, some of the cars are leaving the pit box here. We have 15 minutes to go. Well, we tried to leave the pit box anyway. One Ferrari decided he wanted to face backwards for a moment. But we'll see cars rolling out of pit lane here for 15 minutes worth of practice. And of course, you'll notice for qualifying, you'll notice a little later in the afternoon. Temperature is going to be a little warmer. So hopefully these guys have also practiced in a little bit more of the warmer temperatures because, of course, it is around 13 to 15 C at 7 a.m. After qualifying wraps up here, we will have a very exciting 90 minutes of racing to address here. No mandatory pit stop or anything like that. Of course, most drivers should need to pit within the 90-minute window, but it is up to them to decide how they would like to use their pit strategy. Whether they will go for a 45-minute split, or will they use a higher level engine map and perhaps try to run the whole 90 minutes without pitting? Well, that's up to them, and we're going to find out what's fast.
Yes, we sure will. I gotta say, I'm actually really excited to see what a lot of these guys can do, considering the fact that some of these guys, like I said before, we have not ever seen. And Nick is giving us these excellent pictures today, as well as doing commentating duties. He is a man of many talents, and this is, of course, just one of them. He's a new broadcaster for us here at RLM, and just want to take this moment to thank you all for joining us on your Saturday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, of course. And also thank all you guys in Twitch chat for following the channel. It helps us a lot, and thank you guys for doing that. And of course, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to RLM for free and never miss any of the action. Certainly, we have a ton of it. We had a race yesterday, and we have this race today, and we have a big grid race coming up on Monday as well. So thank you guys for all of your support on Twitch, and if you're watching this on YouTube later, hello to you as well. Tell me who you were rooting for down in the comments.
Yeah, it's going to be just an absolute exciting 90-minute race. Hungaroring, definitely one of my favorite tracks to run here, as we see the 77 of Pintos kind of using all of them curbs, getting a little bit up on two wheels there, even as he bounces off those curbs, trying to put in his qualifying lap. Whereas we are about 3 minutes into qualifying at this point. We should see drivers start posting times here briefly, as lap times around this track are anywhere between about 140 to 150, depending on what trim and what the temperatures are like and everything. So we should expect to see some times with these pro drivers potentially around there. As we switch over to Zeman now in the 21 in the bright red and black Lambo. That thing is... that's coming at you there, Jesse. I'd be scared to see that thing in my rear view.
Yeah, I like the black flashes. And by the way, if you're wondering why we're talking about liveries so much, it's just a thing we do. We like talking about liveries. We like giving people their shine, if you will, about their cars and everything. And we're not above telling our opinions of some of the cars that are a bit questionable as well. But nothing questionable about the number 21 Lamborghini of Zeman, is it? That is absolutely fantastic. That's I mean, Zeman wouldn't be behind me for long anyway. Man is an incredibly fast driver for Multi-21 Racing, but even so, you wouldn't want to see that in the mirror because that is an aggressive-looking car. So we've just started qualifying here, and you'll start to see some laps being set eventually. And, that Porsche there we saw there for a second had a more subtle paint job. Ooh, look at this, a nice little cream and black Porsche.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And if we could get the broadcaster here to pull up our times for us on the leaderboard, we can see some of these guys' times as they come across the line, as there are a couple drivers that have posted times. Looks like fastest one at the moment would be Mr. Bianchi in the Car 7 Porsche at a 1:43.3, and I'm expecting times to be posted farther ahead of that as we go on. And we can go back over to the action and for example, I'm seeing on my broadcast tool here, there's about, 10, 15 cars just in the top 20 that are currently up on their times. Let's pull up the times on the tree there as well, Nick. The insert button. And we will see these guys, posting. Bianchi, of course, looks like he went into the pit lane after his lap, reset his tires. Probably see him out shortly. And as we're following, and forgive me and Jesse and Nick were talking about this before the broadcast. Please don't hate us if we butcher everybody's names. We are just humble Americans out here. We are going to try our best. Viskowski comes across the line posting a 0.4 up time. Of course, Elvin Smith coming across the line above him, just under a tenth of the leader, currently at a 1:43.419. And this is shaping up to be some competitive qualifying here. Just over 5 minutes in, and we've already got a bunch of times under a second, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just the way it works in RLM. It doesn't seem to matter if it's an AM field, a Pro-Am field, a Pro field, which, by the way, we should mention, this is just one of many splits for today in the 1.5 hours of Hungaroring. This is the Pro split, or the top split, if you will, and this is just like any split that we would have. It's going to be incredibly close, and it's not going to get any further away. We'll be interested to see if one of these drivers can pull off something amazing, as that does happen sometimes. You'll have like the top driver who is incredibly quick, who's made separation, but from about second to 10th, it's like there's usually nothing in it. It's always interesting when that happens, but of course you also have the flip side of that where nobody gets away and there's less than a tenth in it, and those are always exciting as well. I'm currently focusing on Lucas Rommel, who's currently 5th right now, who's on a flying lap at the moment. Actually, no, he isn't anymore, because he finished that lap and he immediately got taken down the order. He was quicker, but it didn't really matter because Elvin Smith has slotted himself into the second place position behind Christian Bianchi at the moment. Current fastest time is a 1:43.3. Elvin Smith second did a 43.4, just to tell you how close it is. Not even a tenth in it, folks. That is sort of midway point in this session. We are watching Ishmael here in the 181 Ferrari. Very gold the back end of that thing. He is up by a couple of tenths as he's going to come across the line, and we'll see exactly where he slots in. He may stand to gain some positions here. He lost a little bit on that straight. He goes to 4th, actually. So that wasn't too bad for them. I actually think I was misrepresenting the car there. I think the broadcast tool threw me for a dummy. That's a bit unfortunate. Now, this is the 67 car. This is actually the car I was talking about, not Elvin Smith, who was previously shown over this car. Number 67 Lamborghini, driven by Ishmael Lebrec, has gone quicker and is still going quicker, it must be said, as he gets bumped down by Mikowski a little bit. And there you have it. Lebrec goes to second on the board with a 43.39. Fast lap currently is a 43.32. Mike Jones.
Yeah, he sure is. This is just getting up there really quick. We got 3 drivers within a 10th and a few drivers within the 5/10 mark. I would not be surprised to see a couple of these guys pull off some even faster laps. Of course, Bianch still holding on to that top spot with that 43.3. And on that note, I apologize, gentlemen. I have to do something very quickly. I'm going to pass it back to you guys just for a moment.
Absolutely not a problem as we continue qualifying here. If you haven't set a lap right now that you're proud of, now would be the time to do so, because this is going to come down to it. And how many times do we see that the fastest lap in these sessions are set at the last possible minute? It happens all the time. I have on good authority that the current fastest driver, the number 7 of Bianchi, is up by a few tenths, up to 3 tenths now, it must be said, as they continue their lap in their Porsche. Can they hold on here through the final sector? Oh, he will not do that because he went off track there, Nick.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a cut there, coming off that corner. Looks like he will be also be returning to the pit.
Hockey might not be quite set. He might have his little noise going on in the background too. But yeah, unfortunate. I did kind of catch that a little bit of off track there. It was a good lap for him, but I'm sure he will be able to come back out. Still has plenty of time to put on a couple laps and go forward with it.
Yeah, it sure is. He's got pace, and he's currently showing me that he has the pace to actually go quicker now, and that's dangerous. If you have a little bit of a gap already, and it's not much, but it's a tiny gap, you have several more tenths in the bank. That's always a lovely feeling to have. We'll see if he reloads here and goes for another one. He certainly looks like he's going to, and is being pursued, of course. He's flashing the lights. There's nobody in front of him. We see that a lot, Mike Jones, in this series, or in RLM, where drivers who are not flashing anybody in particular, but have their lights going. It's quite humorous.
Yeah, Jesse, we saw, who was it we were talking about yesterday in the Endurance Championship? He absolutely loves doing that. It's just a nervous tick of his. It's always amusing to see these guys kind of be like, hey, I'm here. Watch me.
Yeah, indeed, it is very much that. It's a whole bunch of drivers now who maybe, I mean, my goodness, you know what I just realized, gentlemen, is that down to 15th place, there's not even a second in it all the way down to 15th. If they can maintain this pace, I think if they have this in the race, we might just have a bunch of drivers stuck together, because I think the straights will carry you as far as the draft goes in that scenario. I don't think that you're quick enough to really break free unless you make mistakes. So pretty interesting top 5, it must be said. A lot of names that I recognize up at the top, including the man who just went fastest, Mr. Elvin Smith, in his 181 Ferrari. He set that 43.23. Of course, he's part of THR. It's Team Highlands Racing. They're always been a formidable opponent in RLM and abroad. And you see him, of course, no stranger as well to the flash the light button. And it does the treat there as the McLaren, I almost called that a Mercedes, the McLaren behind them gets out of the way, just in time for Elvin Smith to park up and say, I'm done. I'm going to probably reload if I was him. So, second, yes, Mr. Jones.
Oh, no, I was just going to jump in and say I was back with you. Sorry, there was a problem with one of the other servers I had to solve really quick, but I am back and ready to go. I see in the meantime, I believe I heard you mention this, we do have 2 drivers that have taken over Bianch's first place pole position, provisionally, of course, as we still do have a couple laps left. As we watch Bianch now come around the track. He is currently, my broadcasting tool needs to refresh. Jesse, how's he doing with this lap?
Well, I'm afraid it isn't doing too well because nobody's really up on their time. The only person that's up at all inside the top 15 is the 15th place car of Michabanka. They are the only person at this time. Everybody else is either down on their time or on an outlap, I'm afraid. And just as I say that, commentator's curse on Michabanka, part of that BWT racing group there, They no, I am incorrect. They have gained time now, is what's happened. They've gained time in the second sector and stand to gain a lot. Now, keep in mind, he's only up 2/10 on my screen, but that's sort of neither here nor there because you see how tight the pack is. That would jump him up massively. And also, that would put this team more where I would expect them to be honest. I expect this team to be up in the top 10, if not top 5 most of the time. And I'm sure Mr. Baca is saying, Jesse, I really wish you wouldn't say things like that. But I do. And we will see as he is still tracking 3/10 up. As after this, we'll go and check out Bianchi, who's in third. But for right now, since we are at the end of the lap, we will... Well,
actually, Bianchi's actually looking up on this time here. He is about 3/10 up, according to my tool here, Jesse. He very well might put down one heck of a fast lap if he can keep this up. Of course, he is not too deep into the lap yet, about 53 seconds. He'll have, give or take, about another 50 to go. And if he can keep up on this time, this might give him the pole over Mr. Elvin Smith. And this is a very, very tight qualifying. We are going down to 16th place currently before we see somebody outside of a second. And Bianchi is actually gaining time as well. Just saw him move over to 5/10 up. This might be reminiscent of Samuel Ratz's during the Endurance E1 yesterday, where he posted a time almost, what was it, about 5.5 tenths above everybody else in the first qual.
Oh, it was absolutely massive, Mike. But Bianchi, just as we sing his praises, he was up at 7/10 up on the time at one point, which would have absolutely blitzed the lap to beat. But he does improve, and it is enough to go to the top of the table. As it turns out, a 43.1 will do it, and he has no other major challengers for it. I don't think anybody else is on a lap that's tracking positively. I believe, just as we said, that it was a possibility that somebody could come in and proverbially vettle the field. I think Christian Bianchi has done that in a fantastic way as qualifying has expired. There's a few cars out on the track still, none of which trending in the right direction. Mijibanka was trending the right way for a moment. He hasn't quite got it, as we are following Elvin Smith, by the way, and there's good reason for that, because he is trending the right way. He's got a 10th in it, but it is fluctuating quite heavily, it must be said, as he comes around the final turn. Could he retake the pole position? And he does it with a 42.99, and he shakes the car in excitement. He knows that he has taken the pole again. Get re-vettled, says Elvin Smith. That's great stuff, Mike.
Oh, man, you know Elvin Smith ain't going to let that one go. He was going to push it to the very last second, and he did. You'll notice the on screen for Nick here, it now says the session has ended. As soon as Elvin Smith came across the line, he pushed that to the absolute limit for his very last lap, a 42.990. That is an absolute blazing lap around Hungaroring here. And he will take that pole by almost 2/10. And the Bianchi over 1.5 tenths just about over third place. So these guys putting down some fantastic laps to round out qualifying here. And we're going to get into racing here shortly, and we're going to see these guys battle probably for the full 90 minutes. Would not surprise. And look at this grid lineup. Just looks like a colorful pack of crayons, don't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic stuff we have here, and I don't know if Mr. Nick can... that's beautiful. That's exactly what I was going to say. He read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. If we could get a nice shot of the grid and look at all these cars. Now everybody has 5 minutes or so to... I wouldn't even say relax at this point, but they have 5 minutes to consider what they would like their start to be as Nick goes down the grid beautifully, and you can see all those wonderfully bright cars intermittent with those normal. I don't call them dull, because they're not dull. They're fantastic, but you have like the normal cars, okay, and then you have people that show up in Skittles, and I find that incredibly fascinating to see. As just a fantastic array of cars, and a lot of manufacturers represented as well here today. I don't think there's a single BMW in the field, however. But beyond that, it is a fantastic array of color and cars. Elvin Smith on pole, of course, after getting the pole position at the final second, quite literally, by being one of the last few cars to come across the line. Excellent stuff. Of course, Bianchi in second place in the number 7 Porsche. We have Rubio in the number 66 Mercedes. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I had to look forward at that to make sure I got that as close as I possibly could. Fourth place, we got Mikowski in the number 11 Porsche. Fifth place, we got Lebrecht in the number 67 Lamborghini. And then starting out the back half of the top 10, we have Rommel and Hammer, Mick and Borodai, Bonka, who did manage to get back in the top 10, and Valera, and a host of others in the field. Anything you guys are looking for in this race?
You know, Jesse, honestly, I really just want to see these guys keep it clean. It's an hour and a half long race, so kind of get a little bit of that sprint vibe while still, hey, we do still have this pit stop to keep in mind. I'm really interested to see what kind of pit strategies these guys go with. And as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast as we came on, it is cold out here today, guys. It is about, if I pull up my game, currently 13 Celsius on the track. Of course, grip level is optimal, but 13 Celsius. That means your tires are going to be chilly. First couple laps, brakes, tires will not be up to temp. We will see how these guys handle the slipping and sliding around with cold tires. And, of course, these guys are all excellent drivers. Of course, this being our pro split, as we see these blazing lap times come down, I would expect nothing less than excellence from all these guys, and to be an exciting 90 minutes here at Hungaroring.
Absolutely. As Jesse mentioned earlier, I am just excited to see just kind of just a tight pack. We saw 2 hours at Monza yesterday, and we had the 3 splits in that race. We had the Pro, Am, and Am classes all racing together for 2 hours around Monza. And it is going to be exciting to see the Pro Split by itself in a what is going to prove to be a tight pack going around the track. We're going to see a lot of exciting battles going on between these top-level drivers, and we will, I believe we're in for a very exciting race to watch for our race fans out there.
It's going to be interesting. And, of course, we, as Jesse noted, have some really kind of notable names in the list that some people might recognize. Of course, Elvin Smith in our pole position, one of our drivers here with THR Wolf is his name. He drives for THR and RLM Esports. He's also a former real-life karting competitor. And, of course, just kind of notably around the sim racing community in general. Guy is one hell of a competitor. I would not expect to see him fight tooth and nail just as he did in qualifying. Other notables today, Jesse mentioned this gentleman earlier. I believe Tommy Pintos is on the field. Didn't look like he qualified too well, unfortunately down in 25th position. But Tommy Pintos is a real-life racing driver from various karting series. Would not expect to see him sit towards the back for very long. He'll be an excellent competitor today. And, of course, a very exciting one here for me because I love drifting as the cars are pulling off the grid here. Matt Samuel, Jesse, I believe a drifting champion, is he not?
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Samuel is the former British drifting champion. And I wasn't really aware that they had such a thing, but of course in Britain they do have Santa Pod Dragway, and that's also a famous drifting spot, so I don't know why I would have assumed they would not have a sort of drift championship, but either way, he's a magnificent driver, and he doesn't just drift, apparently. He does other motorsport, and he's really good at it. I mean, I don't know, again, why you would expect him to not be. Anybody with the car control to drive a car sideways should do just fine driving it the correct way, but, under traction as well. So It's going to be an interesting race. One note from me was this race was set a little bit later in the day, and one of the reasons for that, wanted to get the American continents involved a little bit. That has come off without a hitch. One thing that I didn't expect, that I was actually sort of delighted to see, was a lot of you night owls in Europe and abroad as well have shown up tonight. Of course, you're absolutely welcome to do so, and you showed up, and it's been an absolute treat to have some familiar names, I should say, in the field as well. Good mix of both. I think we're going to be talking about a lot of different points, and the first one for me, of course, is the fact that qualifying was incredibly hotly contested. We had about 15 cars under a second, and anytime you have that, you're going to have a crazy race.
Absolutely, and you know, it's a lot of new drivers here for RLM, as you mentioned, Jesse. A lot of old drivers as well. You know, of course, Elvin Smith being one of them. But a lot of new drivers, a lot of faces that we don't recognize. So I think this is going to make for some absolute fantastic racing. And we are coming along the grid here. We will start stacking up double file here shortly to get ready to go green. Of course, some of you guys that aren't quite as familiar with ACC, maybe experienced with some of the other sim games out there, you'll notice the cars wiggling around on the grid a little bit. Yes, this does actually function here with ACC, as we see the cars stack up 2 by 2 as we come into the final corners. This will start keeping temperature in your tires. Of course, you can use the brakes as much as you can during the pace lap as well to try and get your brakes up to temperature. Something exciting that I really enjoy from ACC is also staying off the racing line or on the racing line subsequently will heat or cool your tires as it can as well. The racing line itself will get hotter than off track, so if your tires get a little hot, you can jump off the racing line a little bit, cool them down. Same thing happens in the rain. The dry line will form. Of course, no rain here today, 7:08 a.m. as we approach the green flag for here. 90 minutes of Hungaroring coming up bright and early in the morning here in Hungary. And we are going to cross the start-finish line. Green flag drops, and Bianchi get an excellent run off the start, way ahead of Elvin Smith as we're coming down into turn 1. Cars stacking up, sometimes 3 wide in the back. Bianchi going to that low line, and we're going to come in 3 wide almost into turn 1. Elvin Smith falling back there just a little bit. Bianchi coming out in that 7 Porsche, and actually Elvin Smith is now on the inside of Ruggiero in the Mercedes. We're going to see if he can hold on to at least that second place spot as the race has started here. And Jesse, these cars are packed up still coming into turn 4.
Is absolutely amazing start. Bravo to all of the teams and the drivers here today. That was an absolutely flying start, and the fact that all of them got away, and the fact that Bianchi is your leader now is a fantastic result. He used that outside line to absolute advantage. He got a stalking start off the line. He's the leader. He does not want Elvin Smith up behind him, of course, and that's why you pull out to about a second lead. It'll be interesting to see if that continues as the race continues. You can follow along at home, ladies and gentlemen, by looking at the split between the cars. That's what the plus numbers are. Those are relative to the car in front of them, of course, not to the leaders. So you can follow along just as well as we can, as Bianchi still has about 9/10 of a second, but it has come down a bit, it must be said. But my goodness, what a start. They were, in fact, 3 wide, if not more, behind them, Mike Jones, but they all made it, and as far as I could see, they all stayed within the track limits. That's incredible stuff. But all that being said, I've come to expect that from these guys, to be honest. This is pro split. These guys are pro, and they are showing you why they're pro. An absolutely clean start there. Mr. Clean would look at that and go, that is a job done. As you see Michibaka, who shades the Porsche behind him off into a defensive line, and they all curl back to the outside to make sure they have the best line through 1. Wow, 1 lap complete, and the gap is 1 second out front, but they're the only ones, Mike.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see that last for long as well. You know Elvin Smith ain't going to settle for second. He wants that first place. Not only at the end, he wants it now. And he is going to go on the hunt for Bianchi there. It has already closed up a couple tenths. Would not be surprised to keep seeing that close up. Of course, Bianchi isn't going to let it go easy. I'm not saying that Elvin Smith is just going to get up there and take it from him. but he's going to put up one hell of a fight, and I would not be surprised to see that for the next couple laps. And just a note of something that did happen. Truglio, back in the, I believe he started around the 20th place. I did see he got a drive-through. Likely it was an issue with the starting grid. He must have been slightly out of place. Of course, the game will give you a drive-through for that. We do not have any live stewards, so any penalties that you see come across are purely game-related. And unfortunately for him, he will suffer a drive-through penalty, but he's a competitor. I'm sure that he will come on back and keep racing, hopefully pretty soon here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You don't want to drive through immediately, but the game is precise to what it wants you to do, and it tells you if you're out of line with what it wants you to do as well. And all it takes is a fraction, because it is a computer after all. And if you are that fraction over or under, it will give you a drive-through penalty, as we see Elvin Smith, who has gained about a half a second on that lap, if not more. It's definitely more now. The reason it says it's 4/10 is because it hasn't updated, as they are now side by side coming out of turn 1, going into 2. Elvin Smith does not have the preferred line, but he does have the line. He sold him a dummy and has went down the inside. New leader of the race, Elvin Smith, as Bianchi has now tucked up right behind him. He has been given the task that he doesn't want to lose the leader, because if he loses the leader with the pace that Elvin Smith has, that might be game over early, Mike Jones.
You know what? I said it a minute ago. What did I say, Jesse? I believe I said Elvin Smith doesn't settle for second?
He does not
That's
play
what I said,
around.
right? Oh,
No.
Actually, the Mercedes. Oh, he cut across the track a little bit there. Hopefully he'll be... he kind of came across the chicane a little bit there. We'll see if the game kind of tries to penalize him for that a little bit. But either way, Elvin Smith, he is not going to give it up. He will fight for first place every step of the way, and that's what he did, taking a perhaps not necessarily best line even, and he's still able to get around Bianchi there in the 7th and come around him to take the lead. And question is now, can he just put the lap times down? Does he get comfortable and able to push out? Or, do you think that Bianchi Rubigio here will be able to fight for first place?
Well, no, I personally, I hate to dampen the excitement, but I reckon Elvin Smith is just going to disappear up the horizon, because that's what Elvin Smith does. Of course, he's a THR driver, and he's really good at what he does. But just as I say that, if you look at Arulo right behind him in that powder blue, very striking number 66 Mercedes, he is not letting Elvin Smith get away from him, is he? He's right there on the back of him. I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen, I am impressed that people are sticking with him. Elvin Smith typically is a guy, like I said, that just sort of disappears. A couple other pieces of housekeeping. The 99 of Varela, was given a drive-through penalty. And also, I'm pretty sure that you get several off-track warnings before you get a drive-through penalty, so be mindful of that as well. Of course, it's all done by the game, and as Mr. Mike Jones said earlier, we do not have live stewarding here, so any penalty you see is the game's regulations, not our own, which I guess you could argue is our own, as we pay attention here to the number 22 of Michibonka, who is currently under fire from the number 23 Porsche of Rommel. This battle is completely heated up at this point, and a couple people asking for a replay in the chat. Unfortunately, it's been way too late, and we cannot do that. By the time you see it, in fact, it would already be too late on our end. Our apologies. There's nothing we can do about that, I'm afraid.
That said, I did go take a look at it on my own game here. Looks like what happened is Ruggiero really got well on the inside of Bianchi there, and then subsequently just the ever so slightest of contact kind of got him a little loose, and that's why we saw him cut the chicane a little bit. So
yes.
the overtake, it could have been done cleaner, don't take me wrong, but it was nice little hard racing between the two of them there. So hey, we've got an hour and 22 minutes left. We got plenty of time for them to fight out the rest of this race.
I have to say, Mr. Mike Jones, I keep calling you Mr. Should I not call you Mr.?
Jesse, you can call me whatever you want, as long as you don't call me late for dinner.
I would never do that. That's a cardinal sin here in the South. But what I was going to say is Rulio has not lost. In fact, quite the opposite. He's maintained his position on Elvin Smith. That is a very strong Mercedes AMG that is contesting for that position. Of course, we stick here with the battle for 6th place because look at this camera work by Nick Setnick. This is great stuff, directing the cameras. Beautiful shot, trying to find any kind of way around is Rommel, can't quite get it done. And the thing about Rommel is if he makes even a slight mistake, he's going to get overtaken by Borodai. Borodai, no stranger to RLM. Borodai knows how to make passes. He's been there in the high pressure situations. And he's not going to get anything done because Rommel's going to try for the inside line here. The 3 turns left to go in this lap, but now, unfortunately, he's going to be side by side with Bonka as they go through the penultimate corner. A little bit of a touch there, perhaps, and that's exactly what I was talking about. That is only going to let Borodai through, but fortunately, he has the inside. He's not done. He's going to attempt to make the pass. He fires it into the final corner, and Mike is losing his mind. He's curled up in his chair, and Rommel has got the pass done.
Oh my God, this is exactly what I was hoping out of this race, man. You know, these guys are out here fighting, and you know what? They are doing it clean, too. That whole time, there might have been a little bit of a touch, but you know what? Here in America, we have a saying. We love NASCAR and rubbins racing, boys, and that's exactly what we just saw there. A little bit of rubbing going on, but that Porsche of Rommel slid past him in the end, and one hell of a pass done by him to get up into 6th place, and we will check back on that battle in a little bit, see if Bonka can't pick that back up. He is staying with him. As we switch over to now, looks like a battle between 4th and 5th here. Now, Jesse, I will say, I was watching number 67, Black Lambo here, do some practice the past couple days as I was filtering in and out of the server. Ishmael Labracue, perhaps? Again, can't pronounce names. Very much apologize, guys. This guy is very quick. He's very consistent, and he's, I believe, one of our couple Lambos in the race as well. And I would not be surprised to see this guy place in the top 5. But doing a good job holding off the 11 of Mikowski for the time being, as he is just all over the back of that Lambo and actually going to peek on the inside here. Lambo went just a little bit wide. He's going to come in for the outside corner here in the last corner, and a little bit of a late braking with the Lambo, able to slide back into place, and we're going to slide back in line there as the Porsche kind of slides itself around that corner a little bit.
Anytime I see a car get out there on that runoff and get that sideways, I always have a saying: I shouldn't be able to read the side of the number, or the number on the side of the car looking at the front of it, and they got dangerously close. I think in most sims you would lose the car there, but with the superior handling and physics in ACC, was able to handle that quite nicely like you normally would be able to in real life. Of course, this game, the sim, I should say, based on real data, is there's a whole bunch of things going on in turn 2. Absolutely fantastic close racing, and just a couple of things to mention, just to touch on what Mike said. Oh no! And just as I say that, commentators curse a Porsche in the background.
Car 6.
Yes, I believe you're correct. That car has gone spinning. You're absolutely correct. Let's see if we can get a replay of that incident. Oh, unfortunately, couldn't quite get it in time, but got sent for a ride. Did the number 6 there. A little bit of a dangerous rejoin, but all things considered. Oh, no! And he spun it again in another corner. This is going up the hill into Sector 2, and he's made another spin, and he's sitting there off apex, or sort of on the apex, actually, as it turns out. And that's unsure. Oh, he has decided to tow to pit road, as it were, after those few consecutive spins. That might be a smart decision to have made. Of course, he isn't out of the race. He can come back on track after his towing procedure and his pit cycle is completed. So, Mike, there is no pit stops in this race that they are required to have, based on the fact that there's not a thing on the screen for that, but I suspect all these cars might have to come in for fuel. Is that correct?
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, don't take me wrong, you can make it 90 minutes. You can. Of course, you're going to have to run on a higher ECU map, right? You're going to have to run lower fuel consumption and to make it that full 90. And of course, some cars probably won't be able to make it the full 90 to begin with. As we talked about yesterday with the Endurance Championship, Bentley in particular just has absolute excellent fuel mileage. I do not believe, if I am mistaken, that we have a single Bentley in this race. So we won't see any of that. However, you know, most of these guys don't look like they're holding out. I would not be surprised to see pit stops happen somewhere between the halfway mark, potentially even an hour or so deep, depending on what they want to run for pit strategies. But again, no mandatory pit window. These guys can make their own decisions today on how much fuel they want to run in each section. Do they want to run a quick stint and undercut it at start? Do they want to overcut it? Hey, that's not for me to decide for this race. I left it up to them. And it will be very interesting to see how it all shakes out, because I'm sure there will be very different pit strategies for all of these drivers.
Of course, that is the voice of Mike Jones, not the one you're probably thinking of, but in my opinion, this one's just as impressive. He's the sort of the brain trust behind this event, and it is lovely to have Mike here with us on commentary. Of course, he's no stranger to that either. I would call you a professional in that regard, Mr. Jones, but he also came up with this event and the Night Out Championship, and this sort of a precursor to that, at least in the time slot sort of way, and sort of ushering in a new audience here at RLM while sprinkling in some very familiar faces. And it's been absolutely lovely start. Very few incidents. There's been a lot of racing drama. Oh, as the Lexus really throws it into turn 2, but just trying to make the most out of that corner.
The sound of that Lexus.
It is a fantastic sounding vehicle. I mean, some of these cars, folks at home, if GT cars and GT racing doesn't give you the fizz, check your heart rate, because something is absolutely wrong with you. But just to focus on chat for a second, thank you guys for all of the follows. Again, we've had a ton since I mentioned it in a pre-race. Thank you guys. It is absolutely awesome to have you here. And answering another question in chat, there is no live stewarding for this event. This is a one-off event, as it were. This is the pro split, or the top split, if you will. We're running 3 or 4 of them this evening, but this is the pro split. Yes, Mike?
Oh yeah, I was just going to concur with you. There are 4 splits going on. So we have the pro split, which is what we're watching here, 2 pro-am or silver splits, and 1 am split, all happening simultaneously. But as you said, no live stewarding today for these. We just, want to give the guys a break. We've been hard at work the past few weeks, with Suzuka happening last weekend, and the Endurance Championship happening Friday, Porsche Cup happening Monday. Me, Jesse, and Nick decided we would take this one all on our own today.
Yeah, there's no place I'd rather be than watching this race. As I said just earlier, there's been a lot of drama in this race, and this is going to continue as Hannah tries to make his way around the outside in the 777 purple Audi. Can't quite get it done, gets shut down and defended really well, but all that's going to do is leave him open to retaliation from the Ferrari behind, but he's not giving up. He is not. He's not giving up his dream. He's going the long way around the outside. Can't quite do it, but he gets back just in time to close the door on Brambilla. That's fantastic driving. And just like I was trying to say, a lot of drama in this race. Not a lot of spins, but a lot of drama, because there's a lot of change of position. And oh my goodness, from that camera angle, that looked dangerous. Turns out it wasn't. Brambilla had his car under control, and it's an absolute treat. That number 27 Ferrari, as this battle will continue. I don't think they've settled this yet. I'm pretty sure the Hannah would like to get by proudly sometime soon, because certainly he's caught him, and I reckon he can catch him again. It's just a matter of getting back up there and not putting himself in a position to be caught from behind. This is a fight for the final spot in the top 10. And I always thought top 10 is nice. I'd be all right with a top 10. I mean, shoot, I'd be happy with the top 20 against these guys. But in general, I'm happy with the top 10. How about you, Mike?
Oh, a top 10, I'd be happy to be like anywhere near like 5 laps down at the end of 90 minutes with these guys. I mean, I am, I don't know about you, Jesse, but I'd be the one in the AM split going, maybe I can get a top 10 there. Maybe.
Oh, you're not kidding. You would have to create a super amateur split for me, mate. It would not go well for me. But this battle does continue as well. We saw this earlier, and we continued to watch this. This is the number 22. I usually call this the Pepto-Bismol car, and I mean that with all the love and conviction you could possibly have. This is a sort of a returning team, a normal, a long time running team, I should say, at RLM. They run as a group. Michobanka has taken on the Night Owl shift here. Of course, I believe he is a European driver. I'd have to refer to my notes, but pretty sure of that. He continues to be hounded by another RLM regular of Borodai behind him. That fight will continue. Neither one of those tenacious drivers are going to give up as we go and look at Mikowski, who is, must be said, he's hanging on to 5th place, and he's right behind Lebrec at the moment. Oh, and I see why, as there is a train in front of him of several drivers. How hard do you push Mike Jones at this stage? Have you settled in at this point? If you're Mikowski at this moment, are you settled into this race, or are you startled by the 2 cars in front of you?
You know, Jesse, that's a very interesting question, right? I mean, so on a personal level, I don't think so. I don't think I would be settled in too much at this point. You know, this isn't a very long race. It's not like we have, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour race or anything like that. As we see Ishmael going very wide here down into turn 1, and he is going to get that position possibly here. Bianchi, a little bit of a bad run into turn 1, and Ishmael is going to make that move and get it done. That will put him on podium, as potentially Bianchi here maybe having some struggles as the 11 car of Mikowski also slides by him, and don't know what's quite going on with Bianchi. We'll have to keep an eye on him in the next couple laps. Hopefully he has not lost any grip or anything in his car, but he goes down to 5th place, and of course he is the man that we saw off the start of the race absolutely explode off the starting line, and struggling a bit down to 5th place, but hey, overall it's still 5th, right? I mean, that sounds good to me.
No, you're absolutely not kidding. I mean, for me, again, I'd be happy with the top 20. Like I said, I mean, top 5's absolutely fine. But Bianchi, who almost took the pole there and is falling back to 5th, I think that just highlights what I was saying earlier, what we were talking about, I should say earlier, about you make one little mistake, or it's not even a mistake. It's not something we would call a mistake, but when you run in pro splits, any little miscalculation of the apex may be a few millimeters off of the line, and that opens the door, and I think that's kind of what's happened to him, but we will pay attention to him to see if he continues to fall down the order in his Porsche. Meanwhile, to another Porsche, this battle we talked about earlier hasn't gone anywhere, and proudly is hanging on to the 10th place position at the moment, but he is, it must be said, under a constant assault behind him from Hannah and Brambla. It is absolutely pandemonium here. Like it's the most orderly procession I've ever seen of cars that are all wanting to get by each other. Yeah, Brambilla, of course, I mean, for me, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Brambilla, for me, it's like, I struggle with this one, Mike, because do I, if I'm the 3rd car in line, do I wait and be patient, or am I on max attack?
See, I think this kind of goes back to the question you asked me a minute ago, right? As we see Proudly brake just a little bit too early coming into that, and you'll just see Hana close up quick. That Audi has some excellent brakes. We were seeing a lot of this in the endurance at Monza yesterday. The Audis coming into the corners, them guys can just mash on the brakes, and that thing just comes to a full and complete stop very quickly. And we'll see if he's able to dive in. But to go back to your question about the Ferrari, right, of Brambilla here, I think with how much Hana is dancing around Proudly, it might behoove him to kind of wait for that fight to open up a little bit and just kind of take that easy slide by. Unless he gets just a really good chance, it might be good for him just to kind of hang back for a minute or two and just grab a position when he can. Now, of course, to go back to what you were asking me a couple minutes ago, right? The question of, do you push? Are you on max attack at this point? I think so. I would say so. You only have an hour and 5 minutes left in this race, and that's a little bit of a lockup there from Hana. He got a little squirrely, but kept it under control. But yeah, so I think you just stay on max attack. This isn't like a 6-hour race. It's a bit of a sprint race, and it's a sprint to the finish. These guys do have a pit stop to worry about at some point, but you can see these guys having to go defensive even 25 minutes into this race, full defensive here, as Hana gonna try to shoot around the outside line, but good defense by Proudly there to stay down on the bottom of the track. And he is going to hold it at least for one more turn one. And this battle ain't gonna go away.
No, it ain't. It ain't going to be resolved until somebody gets around somebody. I like what we have here in ACC and RLM specifically. What we're talking about, what we're watching, is a hotly contested battle for a top 10 spot in a pro tier in 3 completely different manufacturers that all have different characteristics. They all have different BOP. Of course, in ACC, each track has its own BOP to keep it fair, and I just love it. And something else I love is Lebrec's car here, for instance. You touched on this earlier about he's in a Lamborghini and that there were very few of them in the race. He's not only in a Lamborghini, he's in the only Lamborghini in the top 20, and he's on a podium spot right now. Of course, he is under assault from Mikowski at the moment in that Porsche, but still, I mean, this is lovely stuff. But oh my goodness, each time, this lovely camera work by Nick, by the way, is just fantastic. It really gets you into the action and shows you the shots. And please, at home, ladies and gentlemen, forgive me if I draw up in my chair every time a car lunges at another car. And that's the other takeaway that I have from the first 25 minutes of this race. It's been hotly contested, but it's also been incredibly respectful. It's ridiculous, like how many times a car is drawn up on another car, and it's like, oh no, it's fine. I don't have to hit you to get by you. It's incredibly refreshing.
Yeah, it is, Jesse. I mean, we saw the one spin with the Porsche earlier, kind of went off track a little bit, kind of spun himself around, and I think he just got a little bit of a knock into somebody else, but for the most part, this has been just some bumping and banging, which you would expect and hope to see. Little tires on side panels as we make some really hard passes on the occasion, but just a lot of clean racing here. And something I just noticed, Jesse, would you perhaps like to take a glance at the top of the leaderboard and talk about that split for me? Because I think we talked about this a minute ago about what Elvin Smith was going to do, and he seems to be doing it.
Yeah, honestly, it took him, and he's going to hate me, he's going to DM me about this, but Elvin, what took you so long? It took you 25 minutes to get a gap? What are you doing? He must be on a Saturday cruise, Mike. That must be what it is, because this is extraordinary for him, or extraordinary, I should say, for him to take this long to get a 2-second gap. But that's in fact what he has done with 26 minutes elapsed in this race. He has got himself a very nice, and I would call that a comfortable lead of 2 seconds. So that's exactly what I expected him to do. It's just that it took him a lot more laps than I expected, which is no knock on him. I'm kidding, of course. I think that speaks more for Rubio and his pace that he has in that 66 Mercedes at the moment. As we continue to watch these battles that are occurring in the top 10, it's just fantastic stuff. We're just going from battle to battle because they just haven't resolved themselves. We're still looking at Lebrec, looking back at Mikowski at the moment. He still wants that final podium spot. You know, the only thing better, folks, than finishing 4th in a race is getting the final podium spot, and especially when you can see him. That gives you added incentive to get up there and fight with him, and again, really respectfully racing each other. Wouldn't expect anything different. But both drivers doing everything they can. Lebrec, of course, being very defensive. I mean, sort of defensive. He's got enough pace that he doesn't have to go, incredibly defensive. But Mikowski is keeping right on the back of him, and I think you're just seeing 2 cars with 2 very different strengths come into play here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Lambo, you know, it just has the grunt. Anyone who's driven that Lambo, you know that it is an absolute beast coming out of a corner. Not that that Porsche isn't, but that Porsche, you know, with that really narrow wheelbase and, you know, being able to just brake really late into corners, it may just not get the run out that the Lambo might get in general, but you will see him close up every time this man comes into a braking zone. And you know, it's just going to be the question of when will that Lambo make a mistake? And so far, hasn't happened yet, but they are staying close, and one of them at some point will make a mistake. That said, they're closing up on Ruggiero here a little bit, or Rubigio, sorry, and they're only a few tenths back. They might have another fight for position here coming up for the second place very shortly.
Yeah, and as you may have spotted on your screen, audience at home, the number 77 car of Tommy Pintos was given a drive-through. Now, there's only one thing I can think of that would get you a drive-through, providing he hasn't come down pit road, and that is getting too many off-tracks. Again, I talked about this at the top of the show. You get too many off-tracks, and then the game assigns you a drive-through penalty, like it would in any other racing series, including the SRO, which this is based off of, because now we cut Tommy Pintos coming down to serve that drive-through. I'm not 100% sure it was off tracks, but one would assume, based on the game's auto direction, that that has indeed occurred. But Mike also touched on the fact that Lebrecht has caught Rubio, and that might be a battle for second for Mikowski at some point. This is lovely stuff. Also, it must be said too, if you pay attention to that gap, I told you the gap to first place or second place, as just in the background, Mikowski has lost it in the penultimate corner and has spun it around a little bit. We do have a replay of this. Wonderful work by Nick here. Oh, he just got offline and tried to gas it up in a car. I think that other Porsche got tagged, but not a ton of damage would be assessed on that, but a huge error that has dropped Mikowski out of the fight for what could have potentially been as good as second place. But what I was going to say before that drama occurred is Rubio has started to catch Elvin Smith a bit. Perhaps Elvin saving a bit of fuel, or perhaps Rubio has found his sort of pace, perhaps. It's been as high as 2 seconds, but now it's down to 1.5, as now Mikowski has a brand new fight on his hands, and that in the form of the number 23 Porsche of Rommel right behind him. That's not in any way what he wanted.
Absolutely not. That is very unfortunate to see the Porsche slide out there in the last corner. But luckily, he didn't lose a whole lot. I did check the broadcasting tool. Bianch did clip him ever so slightly. I do see an accident got posted as a highlight, but as you mentioned, Jesse, I think it was a very light tap at best. I would be surprised if either of them had more than extremely minor damage, if not cosmetic only damage. Hopefully we won't see that go anywhere. But that said, at some point we are well within a window where these drivers can hit at this point for tires and fuel if they would like. So if they have to put a few seconds extra into repair, hey, it's about the time to do it. We could see pit stops at any point going forward in this race if the drivers do decide to pit. And as I kind of talked about earlier, I don't think we're going to see many, if any, drivers mapping up their ECU to push out the whole 90 minutes. But overall, an excellent job by these guys. And this fight, again, I feel like we keep saying these exact same words, Jesse, and I might just kind of sound like a broken record. But they just ain't going to let go. These fights are just going to keep happening. And look at this. This just so happens, if I'm not mistaken, to be the 10th place fight that we just cut back to that we were looking at a few minutes ago. And it's still here.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to go away. It's that old adage of if you ignore a problem long enough, it just goes away. That never works, does it? And neither does the almost timeless pursuit of one driver on another. As we are watching Bianchi and now Michabanka again, who has sort of just been hanging around this spot. He's had a fairly quiet race to this point, it must be said, in the very pink Audi, but Borgai, I believe, has gotten around him. I believe it was the other way around at one point. So I think Borgai has gotten around him and now looks to Bianchi in front of him as his next target. Of course, we talked about the rarity that is the Lamborghini, and of course that Lexus is also incredibly rare. There's only a couple of those in this race as well. Let's see the camera angle here. This is Bianchi looking back. This is Racing Line Motorsports. And if there's one thing you know about Racing Line Motorsports, Mike, maybe you can touch on this too. They are some of the happiest sim racers on the planet.
Oh man, I would like to throw a big shout out, to one Stefano Cinapi, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He is the team manager for Racing Line Motorsport. I was commenting to Jesse and Nick and even some of our other staff before the race. Stefano shot me a message and he wanted to make sure that hey man, our Racing Line guys are driving tonight. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And these guys are amazing. They are absolutely fantastic racers. Of course, one of their teams, I believe, took home the win last week at Suzuka. And just the absolute happiest racers and some of the best, cleanest racers that I have seen consistently throughout these RLM races. And of course, other races that they participate in as well. I believe that they are very excited. I know Stefano had already messaged me. Simon hinted at a 24 Hours of Spa coming up here in a couple months, possibly. And Stefano had already messaged us, be like, hey, make sure you guys let me know. We want to make sure we're in and sign it up.
Absolutely. No, it is very much that. I've talked to Stefano as well. He's a lovely guy. And you're talking about the 12-hour race. It's like the winners, they were losing their minds. We got a post-race interview in, and they were as happy as you could possibly be. It's almost like we dumped a litter of puppies on them. I mean, who could be unhappy with a bunch of puppies? And they were losing their minds, and the excitement and the hype for that 24-hour race is absolutely real. But here today, we have 55 minutes. We had a brief momentary, one of the rare occurrences of a waved yellow flag there for just a split second, which leads me to believe that either we exited the sector or there wasn't a whole lot to it. But it's gone 7:43 a.m. in sim time, 54 and some change to go here. We expect most of the teams to have to pit at some point, or pit for strategy rather. Of course, this race, as Mike explained to you guys earlier, is completely up to them when they pit and what they do when they pit. One thing that I would assume, and the only thing that I know, is these guys are probably all on break 2. I don't think you can make it an hour and a half reliably on break 1, which is a setting they have. But I've been proved wrong several times before. I certainly saw a Bentley, or a Boatley as I refer to it, yesterday go twice as long on a fuel stint as I ever would expect. But Mike, while we have a lull in the action for a moment, I just got to get this in there. Since you are the race organizer and you probably know more about this than I do, could you briefly explain the differences between the different classes we have, or excuse me, the different splits that we have going on for this event?
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. This is something that I believe me and you had a conversation about briefly before Suzuka. Me, you, and Tom Roberts talking about this. Of course, Tom Roberts, one of the other administrators here with RLM for ACC, and me and Tom are both very much, as I call myself anyway, AM plebs. We're we're very much AM drivers, and don't take me wrong, very safe drivers. I consider myself a very consistent driver, but some of the big differences that you'll see in these guys as you watch these pro drivers run around the track, if you followed a replay of, let's say, for example, Elvin Smith around a track for 20 laps, I guarantee his tire marks, if you put them down, are within a couple inches of each other all 20 laps. Whereas, the big difference between us and the Pro-Am drivers and the Am drivers is, when we miss a little bit of a line, we're off by, a foot. rather than a couple inches or millimeters even in these guys' respects. And that's really how these guys stay this consistent and race this closely without touching each other, or if touching each other, just lightly at best, and stay clean for the full hour and a half. Accidents just don't happen as often. You see a lot of this close racing just like this. Look at this Lexus. I mean, he is about as close to that Porsche's bumper as he can be. If I had had that, I'd have probably ran into the back of the guy. And, you know, so I don't know about you, Jesse, but that's me.
No, you're absolutely right, Mike. I mean, I've missed turns by a American football field. That's 100 yards for you European types. You think that's a joke, Silverstone? It's absolutely possible, and I have done that. As we continue to focus on Christian Bianchi, who is being fought by Alexander Borodai, who, again, a lot of very familiar names up front in this race. It's fantastic to see them participating. And of course, it was never the intention to exclude any of the European guys. Lovely to see them. Just didn't expect them, honestly, to be up late. I mean, I guess sim racing knows no off time. It's always time to game. It's always time to race. It's just lovely, the race that all of these guys have been putting on today. Doesn't look like Borodai will have exactly enough space to get in there that time.
Are we seeing a pit stop, Jesse?
Oh, we absolutely are. The 777 Audi of Hannah has come in to pit. That will probably, I say, be their pit stop. So they're sort of not quite cutting it in half. They have pitted a little early for that halfway, but hey, you know, like I said before, we left this open to their strategy. This is likely their strategy, and we will have to see. We will pay attention to see exactly where they cycle back through, as Borodai, again, missed it by a few millimeters there, but hit the runoff perfectly, didn't lose any time. And that's exactly what Mike was talking about, folks. If that would have been me, I would have been off in the barrier there. But Borodai, no such problems as he continues around. And some of you eagle-eyed viewers may have also noticed something. The elephant in the room, Rubio is less than a second behind Elvin Smith at this point, 0.857 to be exact. That's certainly been coming down. Oh dear.
Cue Jaws music.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Jaws music has been played as, yes, our director, Nick Setnick, has shown us the battle for the lead here, and that is exactly an apt term. That is exactly what we're seeing here. This isn't 0.8 of a second, Mike. This is a full-on battle for the lead.
It sure is. Looking at my tool here, it looks like we are about 2.5 or about 2.5 tenths or so. And we're also catching lap traffic here as well. You'll see this McLaren out in front. He is about to catch him, Elvin Smith here, and we'll see if that interferes with this battle at all. Of course, there are blue flags in ACC. Hopefully, they will be respectful of the blue flags and keep to the racing line is what we always like to tell them. Stay on the racing line, let the leaders take the pass where they can. He's approaching the corner here. McLaren gonna come across in this corner, and Rubio is gonna try and make this happen for himself as a McLaren gets I think just a little bit of that curb, and I think he got just a little loose, but luckily he was able to get up out of the way in the next corner. But Rubio now right on the back of Elvin Smith, and he is gonna start this battle. He is arrived, and Elvin Smith is about to get some company, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to fight 45 minutes, about halfway through this race. We are now in a battle for the lead. And you can see as this camera, as we watch Rubio bounce around in the background, who's that a couple of cars back there, Jesse? I believe that's Ishmael Labracue. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that name all race today. But this man is also catching up. Looks like he's about a second back. He wants to join this battle for the win, not settling for that podium.
No, we see it time and time again that when the leaders get battling, whenever they catch some lap traffic, whatever the case may be, that brings the field back together. And that's a battle that we're seeing right here as Rubio, which, by the way, I apologize for mispronouncing his name. I thought it was an L. Turns out it's an I. I should really wear my glasses sometimes. but I have now found my specs.
We'll add that to
and
the pre-race
I can-
checklist.
Yes, indeed. And I have corrected myself, so my apologies to him and his team as Rubio in the number 66, not Rubleo, as I've been saying for the past 45 minutes. Again, as we said at the beginning, we are humble Americans who don't necessarily get some of the pronunciations right, so we do the best we can. But that is Leverkusen in third place, and he is coming up on these guys now by virtue of perhaps the lap car and the fact that Elvin Smith may be having to drive a little bit defensive at the moment. Not too defensive, of course, but perhaps a little bit because he doesn't want to give Rubio a shot or a look up the inside, because certainly we've seen what happens when you do. That driver is going to make that fit in that spot. He's going to overtake you, but just to say that, Elvin Smith has gapped them a little bit by 0.8 of a second. So I wonder how much driving on the limit Elvin Smith actually is doing. I assume he's going back and forth between fuel mixtures, attempting to hit his number, whatever that may be, as I believe we just saw Rubio coming to pit road, unless I'm very much mistaken.
That is absolutely true. We saw the breakaway there, and you know what? This might be very smart on his part. Theory here. Let's say that this man didn't want to pit for a couple more laps. He's in a battle for the lead here. At this point, does he make that pit like he just did and hopes that he can get back on the track and get back to his pace rather than having to fight and lose time, especially as this 67 Lambo chicane online racing from Ismail is catching up to them? Perhaps he decided to pit a couple laps early, get out of the fight, get back onto the track, and start putting pace down. Now, of course, that'll be one of the few pit stops that have happened so far. Of course, there are a few more going on. If you check the leaderboard on your left there, you'll see 3 Ps, actually a 4th P now popping up in P11. That means that the driver is in the pits. We see Rubigeo, we see Rommel, we see Bonka, and Romero all in the pits at this moment. So pit windows are open for these guys. We are halfway through this 90-minute race here at RLM's Hungaroring. 45 minutes or so remaining, and I would not be surprised to see more and more cars pitting in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and we're going to see how this shakes out, because I believe you're right here, Jesse. I'm wondering if Elvin Smith is trying to go for a hard overcut here, go as long as he can, and that's why he was trying to save his tires a bit and see if he can't push out that last stint on the fresh rubber as far as he can. And unfortunately, I want to jump in with this really quick. I apologize. You my guys might see Rommel there in 12th place. Unfortunately, it looks like he has a stop-and-go 30 penalty. That would be for speeding in pit road. Of course, the pit limiter must not have activated fully for him on his wheel, and he will have a stop-and-go penalty that he will need to serve and will likely drop back a few places.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's unfortunate. You hate that. We see that all the time, and as is a thing in real life counterpart in SRO as well, where sometimes you don't hit the button or you don't hit the line properly, or perhaps you overspeed exiting or what have you. I won't speculate on exactly what happened there, but it's a common problem both in sim racing and the real thing. That is unfortunate to have that happen, and that takes you right out of the battle you were in, but certainly I feel like he will find a battle. I'll tell you something else I was really impressed with, or something that made me raise my eyebrow, I should say, is that Elvin Smith didn't come in reaction to what occurred in front of him, or behind him, I should say. But he continued going. Oh, a little bit of drift action coming through the penultimate corner there. Saves it, gets it. Now, see, I would not have saved that.
Oh, no, I'd have been in the wall.
Yeah, the 111 Lexus does a little drift action on the brakes, gets it right back under control, and says, nope, didn't do anything, completely fine, don't talk about me. But, yeah, I was really impressed that Smith didn't come in a reactionary way. So certainly, Mike, to your point, to what you're saying, he's obviously racing to a number. He had his strategy set before this race started, and why not? I mean, it's all gone his way. He did make a brilliant overtake for the lead after he lost it initially. So, I mean, he's right exactly where he wants to be. So he's running his own race. He doesn't care about what everyone else is doing. It will be interesting, it must be said, to see exactly how they all shake out after pits. The pitting has been done. As we watch Bianchi here. Yes, Ishmael has gone in pits. They were now pitting as well. He'll surrender that second spot to Christian Bianchi, who has not pitted as well. So a lot of shakeups, and I'll be honest, I didn't write down where they all were before pit stops, so I'm going to need a little help from you guys to remind me if there are some changes that I maybe have missed.
Luckily, Jesse, I managed to grab it, and I was actually just sending you the information as well, so we have it as a reference.
That is incredible. That is what professional broadcasting will do for you, Mike Jones, and you are an indispensable ally to have on this broadcast, because you seem to think about the things I think about long before I ever think about that. Are you psychic?
Jesse, not psychic, but to your point, I don't know if I want to use the word professional broadcaster, but I have been doing this kind of general work for quite a long time, even before coming to RLM. I used to shoutcast for another game that I'm sure a lot of people recognize called League of Legends quite a bit of years ago. Was a big passion of mine, and I, of course, worked as a live broadcaster for our local news stations as well, doing sports games and live news broadcasts and stuff for quite a while. So I generally have a bit of a mind for picking some stuff up here and there, but it's been quite a while since I've broadcast my own voice over the air, so that's been something to get used to.
Well, I have definitely never heard of League of Legends, and I definitely haven't sunk 500 plus hours into the game just to get destroyed. But back to the race at hand, and away from my very bad playing of video games, because trust me, I am bad, folks. Elvin Smith still hasn't come into pit road, but one car that has is the number 7 Porsche of Bianchi. They have brought that Racing Line Motorsport car down to pit road. Elvin Smith, and I believe Hammer as well, and maybe Proudly even, are the few cars that have not pitted yet. For those of you keeping track at home, and do keep up in chat, rooting for the drivers or teams that you are doing. I love reading that information in the chats. It's always nice to know where you guys are from, and what driver or team that you're rooting for.
Look at that car. Can we switch back to that for just a second, Nick? I'm sorry. Jesse?
Well,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, Hammer definitely put a lot of time into that livery.
I apologize to interrupt you. I just saw something very important happen.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't lose that in a car park, would you? You wouldn't lose that in a race. In NASCAR for years they've been painting the roofs of the cars weird colors so that they don't lose them, the spotter and the team doesn't lose them on the track, and that sort of carries over to GT racing a bit with the LED strips on the cars, and sometimes the very remarkable liveries. Of course, some of the BMW teams run reverse liveries of each other just so they can tell the cars apart. So I think a little bit of that action going on. You definitely wouldn't lose that car as we go back to this battle that just because they are down the order right now due to a lot of the cars haven't made their pit stops yet, this battle still continues. This is Bianchi looking back at Foroday. This is exactly the way they have been for the past 15 to 20 minutes at this time. It's incredible. These guys are still stuck. That's great. That means that they lost nothing to each other on their pit stop. That must mean they both had either really bad pit stops, which I highly doubt, or really good pit stops, considering they still are nose to tail.
Yeah, these guys have been fighting for, as Jesse said, at least 20 minutes, and I don't think this one's going away, folks. Again, I once again feel like a broken record, but these fights just ain't stopping today, and it is amazing to see these guys keep fighting as we see a couple more cars coming into the pits. I believe the Ryan Meehan 4th and 5th place. I don't know if that's a potential family member team or what, but I believe they have not pitted either. And I believe Proudly might still need to pit. So we'll see a few more guys pit. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this should be a fight for 5th place overall once the pit stops have shaken out. Though, of course, as Jesse said, depending on how their pit stops have went, and depending on how everybody else pit stops goes, that could be not true. It is an hour-and-a-half race. In theory, you could run a full 120-liter fuel tank at the start, which is potentially what Elvin Smith is doing here. Come in for a splash and dash at the end of the race. Of course, he won't have new rubber on the tires, and that will start tanking his lap times down, but hey, it could be the play for this race. That said, as the guys start coming back out on the track here, I have noticed a couple of these guys have put in overall faster laps than Elvin Smith has across the race. I did previously notice that we had, I believe it was Ishmael had put in a slightly faster lap at about 0.3 faster than Elvin Smith's. That said, we now have Rubajeo and Miskowski both putting it in laps that are faster than Elvin Smith's overall. That will start picking up time as Elvin Smith is going to start losing a little more grip here as he gets farther and farther onto these tires. Currently looking at about 55 minutes on his tires. Of course, he's still got about a, what is that gap right now? We're going to find out here momentarily. Bit of a gap to second place still, as he still has not come down to pit lane.
That's excellent information, Mike, there. I assume you're sitting there with a pencil and paper writing this down or something to keep track of all of that. It's just fantastic stuff as we now focus on the, well, it's a car that used every highlighter in the package that they bought from the pound shop, isn't it? Or should I say the dollar store, as we call them here in the States. But do you know what, though, Mike? I don't hate that car, that 241 Aston Martin. It is not bad. That RLM racing machine got some fans of this team in the chat. Love to see it, and why not stand out? You know, if you're going to be a sheep in the herd, you might as well be bright pink, as they say, as we continue our whip around coverage here. Bianchi, it must be said, has gapped Borodai by about a second at the moment. So that's really good for him. And I'd be interested to know how much of that is just the pace of the Porsche, and how much of that was perhaps a very slight miscalculation by Borodai. I don't know, but it could have been either. We'll obviously keep track of that because, as Mike said earlier, that is a fight for what will eventually be a top spot. Nothing changed up front. Elvin Smith still the leader, took the lead, lost the lead, then retook the lead fairly early into this race and has led ever since then. He hasn't made a pit stop. We assume that he's going to have to at some point. I have seen, it must be said, Elvin Smith pull off some Harry Potter related witchcraft and wizardry before. So it wouldn't be out of line for him to have the esports strats, as it were. But be interesting to know all of that information. Did I lose you, Mike?
I think you broke me a little bit, Jesse.
Well, it is what it is. Hey, I call it like I see it here at RLM. I have the freedom to do so. I love these guys. And just as it's been posted in chat, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for all the follows. And now, as always, remember, if you are a Amazon Prime subscriber, you get a free sub, and you can use that here to help support RLM and support its server costs and its racing and its live streaming that brings you this excellent action here today and every week here on the RLM Racing Network, as it were. It's lovely stuff we're seeing here from Robles here, 18th place. This is one of the first times we've actually got towards the, I wouldn't even call this the back of the grid. This is sort of in the middle of the grid because the action up front has been so intense. But this, of course, a fight for what will eventually be a lot higher position, but for right now is for 16th as that battle actually sort of cools off there for the moment.
Yeah, these battles are cooling off just a little bit here. We're now just about an hour into this race, and would not be surprised to see some of the battles cool off just a bit. But that said, they will heat up soon. As I predicted earlier, we are seeing the Ryan Meenan cars in the pit lane now. So these guys are going to slide up just a touch, and we'll see the 10th place battle slide up to, I believe it should be around 6th or 7th, but we'll see how that shakes out as they come across the pit. Couple more pit stops to go, and we will be able to do a full comparison of where these guys were at before pit stops. And of course, we're still talking now. Elvin Smith is on, I believe, lap 34 now. Hour into this race, still has not pit. He is well ahead of everybody at this point. But I still have the question in my head: does this guy pit? Is he trying to go without a pit? How much time is he going to lose? He's currently running around a mid-44 lap time. That's not quite as fast as some of these other guys. These guys are running low 44s to high 43s, if not faster. For example, Christian Bianchi's last lap at a 43.6. And this battle for, looks like third place here. I believe this is a lap car here behind Proudly.
Yes, that's correct. Proudly is in third place with Rommel behind in 17th there.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised to see Proudly just trying to put some distance here. He, of course, wanting to try to put down as much time as he can to try and get up to Elvin Smith, in hopes that either he will have to slow down for worn rubber, or if he might just make a pit stop at some point. We will see. Of course, that battle was getting pretty heated there just beforehand. Rubajeo and Ishmael down in 4th and 5th instead of 2nd and 3rd. Looks like Ishmael had a bit of a bad pit stop, or perhaps has just lost some time. He's about, looks like 3 seconds back compared to Rubajeo now, and he was right on the back of the leaders before they started their pit stops, Jesse.
Yeah, if that is indeed what happened, that's incredibly unfortunate, but at least he didn't get a stop go 30 for speeding in pit road. And me personally, I always try to err on the side of caution. I'm not really one for going full tilt. Then again, I don't win a lot of races either, so how much do I actually know? But one thing about this battle here is focus on the 23 car of Rommel. This is interesting. Oh, he's going to think about going up the inside in the final turn. Can't quite get it in there. Thinks better of it as the car in front of him goes incredibly wide. As we now go on board with Robles here in the number 8. This is the Stop and Go Racing team. Gee, I wonder what their pass time is, as there's a pass in front up here, as Rommel, please excuse me, does in fact get around that car. So that will help his case that he's no longer stuck. But Robles is now going, well, what about me? Let me by. So we'll see if he can, in fact, do that, just that thing, as we're going to whip around here. This is Ryan Meenan in the 1-2-3 Audi by Boat Racing. If I'm mispronouncing that team name, my apologies. But this race certainly in an interesting flux at the moment. Mr. Nick Setnick, if you're not too busy at the moment, what have you noticed about this race, or what's your takeaway at this point with 30 minutes left?
Absolutely, Jesse. Well, just operating the cameras here, just trying to get these fun angles here as we are into this sort of going into the last half of this race. We're seeing a lot of those pit strategies kind of formulate and come to fruition, and see where they are going to land on the leaderboards there. Obviously, Smith hanging on to position 1 and is still not pit, and we're going to, as been discussed, see where that lands him at the end of this race. So far, so good, but as we like to say, with 28 minutes left, anything can happen at this point. These are all very competent racers on the track right now, and I would not be surprised if we will see plenty of battles going onto the podium before we hit the final lap here.
Absolutely, Nick. I mean, we've got a solid 15 to 18 laps, if not a little bit more here to go. And I think some of these battles will ignite further. Now, I don't believe, if I am mistaken, Jesse, perhaps you have caught him, that Yannick Hammer in the 241 has made his pit as well, as we flip back over to another battle that seems to not want to quit here. I believe this is Bonka with Christian Bianchi again. And Bianchi, even though he's fallen back just a little bit on the leaderboard, everywhere we go, this man is fighting with somebody. He is always on the back of somebody, not wanting to give it up. And he wants to get back into that top 5. But yeah, just have you noticed the 241 or the 52 of Proudly pit? I'm not sure if they have yet. They were in 8th and 9th earlier.
Sure, but I don't think they have, in fact, because I don't think Hammer and Proudly were up quite that far. And for them to jump Rubio would have been something incredibly fantastic. So I'm unsure if that did happen, and Elvin Smith is the only one that hasn't pitted. Matter of fact, I'm actually fairly confident that Elvin Smith, Hammer, and Proudly haven't pitted, considering the gap Rubio is back on them. Rubio, of course, is... Oh, and there's going to be a touch here and a little bit of a slide, a little bit of Tokyo Drift, but it's okay. Oh, no, it isn't okay. It's all gone wrong for Mitja Bonka, as he has been spun by Bianchi. As we're going to catch the replay, we're going to see this again. Unsure exactly what happened there. It just looks like a little bit of a dump there. Some miscommunication has led to the biggest drama that we've seen way up into the top 10 in this race. Mitja Bonka will not be too happy after that contact that sent him spinning off into the gravel trap there. It's just a very strange incident. It looked like there was contact that kind of turned the number 7 Porsche, if I'm not very much mistaken. And then there was a rear-ending incident as well that sent Bonka flying off the track. That is definitely not what you wanted to see, and that's changed the complexion of the top 10 by quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the replay for that on my screen here at the moment, looking a little deeper into it. It looks like there was something odd going on with the 22 of Bonka there as they straightened back out, kind of as I expected when I was watching that. It looks like he got on the brakes. I'm not sure if he maybe thought like he caused the contact and wanted to let Bianchi by. Yeah, so getting on the brakes a little bit there. Wondered if he just wanted to let Bianchi by, thinking he caused the contact and was given the position back. But unfortunately, as we can see, it kind of didn't work out in the favor. So yeah. Here we are.
Yeah, Mike, if that's the case, then I don't expect anything less from the team that Bonka drives for. So that wouldn't surprise me. A bit of a mistiming event there, but it's certainly one of those deals where your heart is in the right place, and you certainly talked earlier about the respect that a lot of these drivers have for each other, because a lot of these guys are racing each other on a weekly basis. They know each other, and the last thing you want to do is make somebody mad right before you have to get back in a car in a different series, or even back here at RLM and race them again. And again, I wouldn't expect anything different from that number 22 Audi team to be that respectful if that were indeed the case. But certainly has changed the complexion of this race a lot, because now Bonka's now down in 9th place, and his pursuit is looking quite different than it had been all race. And because we do have 24 minutes left in the race, I think it's time to put our tinfoil hats on and do a little bit of assuming here. And I'm going to assume that Elvin Smith can make it the full distance in this race, Mike.
I am getting to that point as well, Jesse. I really think that he is going for it here. I mean, I'm looking at his lap times. He's definitely putting down laps, as well as Hammer and Proudly, by the way, that are just way off of pace of where we would expect these drivers to put, which would mean to me the man is lifting early, he's getting on the gas a little bit late, and perhaps his ECU map is not set to that number 1 position, which would deem that he's using a little less fuel than normal, a little less of an aggressive fuel map. I think all 3 of these drivers are trying to push it straight through the end. Now that said, we'll see Elvin Smith posting 44.5s, still in that mid-44 mark. Now keeping in mind, the fastest lap on the circuit right now is about a 43.1. and that is only by one. Rubigeo has posted a 43.1. Everybody else, fast laps that are in the top 10 around a 43.3 to a 43.5 in that area at best. That means that Elvin Smith, even though he might be fuel saving, he is still pushing pretty well. I don't think that anybody is going to catch him if he doesn't pit. That said, Hammer and Proudly posting a lot slow. Oh, as we see Proudly actually going into the pit lane. Maybe he decided he can't make it. Well, Jesse, tinfoil hat aside, perhaps these gentlemen will pit in the end, as we see Proudly coming in at the very last moment. Hammer has been posting laps that are around a 45, mid 45, about a second slower than Elvin Smith. Will he make the decision to pit, or is he also fuel saving? He's got enough of a gap there that if he can really keep on it and defend to the end, he might hold on to that position if he doesn't need to pit. But I don't think anyone's catching Elvin Smith if he can make it all the way.
No, I don't think they will either, but to your point, for those that are paying attention to the timing and scoring here, it's incredibly obvious that Rubio is incredibly quick in comparison, and you just highlighted that. You told us the very specific times. They are about a second or more quicker, and that's showing up in the time as you watch Rubio and Lebrecht also be really quick in comparison and catch those top guys. But to echo your point, Mike, I don't think that they can catch Elvin Smith, and that's exactly what Elvin Smith wants. He wants Hammer to fight Rubio and Lebrecht. He wants them to get into a battle, because all that does is help him make his number by virtue of not having to push. And that's the thing about Elvin Smith. He let Rubio catch up to him in the first quarter of this race, but as soon as he actually got there, Elvin Smith pulled away again. Exactly. Like he's a Mazda advertisement. He just left him again, and I think you're spot on, and I think we were correct in our assumption that he's driving to a number, so to speak. Wow, I actually like this car. I'm sorry to derail my own point, but Ryan Meenan here, I do love those red rims on that gray. Almost said Aston Martin. That's not Aston Martin at all. That's an Audi. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Losing my mind a little bit. I'm trying to make sense of all the numbers, and as the late, great Dale Earnhardt would say, everybody's out here playing chess, and I only know how to play checkers.
Yeah, Jesse, that's exactly what I would expect a man from the south of the U.S. to quote right there. Dale Earnhardt Sr., may he rest in peace. I was a big fan of my dad. I remember watching that race when I was a kid, where he went into the wall at Daytona Motor Speedway there. I believe it was for the Pepsi 400 in the summer, if I'm not mistaken, many years ago. A very sad day in motorsports, as Dale Earnhardt was one of the greatest champions of NASCAR in history. But the man gives out good quotes. We'll hand him that.
Yes, he does, but a lot of them I cannot say here live to you guys on Twitch, unfortunately. So, moving right along from that, he's a lovely individual, very rural kind of guy, actually from the area I'm from. So, he certainly left a big hole in that sport. But you know what's not left a big hole? And that's any of the gaps in this race, because everybody, as we continue to see this excellent camera work by Nick here, it's just battle after battle that continues to hot up here, as we've now dipped under 20 minutes to go, coming up to 19 minutes to go, 8:19 a.m. And no, that's not a typo, that is 8:19 a.m. sim time here at Hungaroring, and still everything to play for. More questions than answers, as is the typical sort of game flow that we have. The sportsmanship and the gamesmanship comes into play as Elvin Smith continues to lead, albeit incredibly slow in comparison to the field, as Mike Jones pointed out earlier in the race. So, and you can actually see it on the timing and scoring sheet. Rubio was 16 seconds behind second place Hammer just a lap or so ago, and now he's got that under 14, and I would not be surprised if it was under 12, this time 5. But we watched this battle of Ryan Meenan here, who is under under attack from a a relation, I would assume, here for Cormac GP. I believe these are, we're not, it's not unusual for us to have siblings or family members compete in the same series together. These are, as far as I'm concerned, newcomers. I've never seen these guys myself personally, so love to get to know these guys a little better in the future, perhaps, Mike.
Yeah, I agree. These guys have been fighting each other the entire race, so if they are indeed, brothers, family members, and however it might be, these guys are probably very, very used to racing with each other. Just be the Audi, go down to the inside, and he's going to make the pass on his on the Aston there, but the Aston not giving up yet. He gets back on the outside, and they're going to go into this corner. Oh, just barely avoiding that touch. The Aston slides back by him, and they're going to go back to fighting this good fight that they have been fighting for the past hour and a half, or hour, a little over an hour, as the Audi catches the inside. As the TV cam pats back across here, they are still side by side going into the final set of corners. The 1, 2, 3 falling back just a little bit. Of course, that Audi will have the superior braking power compared to that Aston, but the Aston looks like so far he has had the grunt off the corner as they go again side by side on the final corner. They're going to make a drag to the line here. I believe the 1, 2, 3 crossed the finish line first. He sure did. 0.014 seconds across the line, and he made the pass, gets the inside coming into T1 here, and they are not giving up. If these guys are in the same house, I'm imagining them yelling and screaming at each other after the race of how much fun they are having. These guys better be grinning ear to ear, as this is just some very exciting racing, as I know I have.
Folks, I hope you've had dinner talking to the Ryan Neiman clan, because if you haven't, it's going to be really awkward at the dinner table tonight, because they've been no quarter given and none asked. And if you're Killian Ryan Neiman, you're saying to yourself, well, that's the only lap that counted, because that's the one that I led at the line, and that's the one that these guys talked about. So that's the only lap that matters. But pretty sure the 58 has a completely different agenda here. And as he goes to the inside, maybe thinks about it, can't quite make the inside move work. Certainly, I think the Aston maybe has a little bit more pace, or at least maybe he's in the head. Did I see a flashing of the lights there as well, perhaps? Or was that the sun coming up that perhaps shined off that beautiful body of that Aston Martin? I don't know. But what I do know is this battle is not going anywhere anytime soon. And one other thing, if these guys are in the same house as Mike Jones said, you better not punt anybody off the track, because you better sleep with one eye open then, mate. Because if you do, you're going to have an angry household this evening. Never go to bed, never go to bed mad, gentlemen.
You are entirely right there, Jesse. I know me and my brother and my dad, we all have played games together for very many years. And every time we would get done with something, it was always a little bit of an argument in the evening. But we all went to bed and made sure we all locked our doors for the evening, so we wouldn't find a puddle of water on the bed or something. But these guys, as the chat is saying now, these guys are racing extremely respectfully. We can see them racing extremely closely for over an hour here for the most part, and just nothing happening at all. I haven't seen anything pop up on my broadcast tool about any sort of incidents between these two. And so awesome racing, as we come to expect from all these guys, as we now are looking at a fight here. Looks like 18th position, 18, 19, and 20. This deep into the race is the Porsche actually going to go deep inside of the Lexus there. Not able to quite get the move done yet, but they are double wide coming into the last set of corners. And the Lexus is going to go very wide, tries to brake a little too late. And Vasilyev manages to slide by that, or slide out, as Vasilyev is in the Lexus. I apologize. The Porsche manages to slide through him. That is I believe it's the 910 Truglio, or no, sorry, that's the 23 of Rommel. And we're now seeing Rommel kind of doing some fighting again. We've been talking about him a few times today. Of course, earlier in the race, he was up in 4th position. I'm wondering if he got some sort of drive-through, or was he the one that got the stop and go earlier?
I
I'm not
believe that's
mistaken.
correct. He definitely had to come down pit road an additional time to serve some sort of penalty. I don't recall if it was a stop-go or a drive-through, but yes, he did receive a penalty at some point.
Yeah, so unfortunate for him, but I mean, hey, he's these drivers never give up. This man is pushing, trying to get into the top 15. He's got about 13 minutes, just under that actually, to do it. And of course, the story of the day here is whether Elvin Smith and Hammer will have the fuel to finish out these last 13 minutes, or will they end up sliding back and giving these guys a couple positions? We're getting down into it here. They might have to make a splash and dash, and this is just a fight going on here for Rommel. He knows he has the pace to get by these guys. He is just looking for an opening, and I think he found it. The Ferrari getting a little bit off track, and he was able to slide by there, but yeah, it looks like he was definitely able to get by, and now the Ferrari and Lexus going to be fighting. We cut over to Elvin Smith briefly. That was him on the screen there briefly, and of course he is just out running a race all by himself for the most part, as he is about ready to lap the Pepto-Bismol mobile of Monka. Monka getting a little sideways in that corner, and of course, as Jesse said, Jesse, it's happening. Jesse, what is happening here?
Well, once again, calling RLM races and trying to predict esports drivers has netted me none the wiser, because I don't know anything that's going on. Elvin Smith has gotten to the point where he has made the decision that he needs to pit. That is going to leave Hammer in the 241, I believe that's Aston Martin, out there in front of the field at this time as the lone driver in the top two that hasn't pitted. Now pay very close attention to where Elvin Smith comes out of the pit road. Perhaps he's taken very little fuel here to go to the end. Yes, indeed. That's going to help him because that's cut down on his pit time. Maybe that was his strategy. And of course, it's always nice to be the one that shows their hand last, or relatively last. So that is going to be very interesting indeed to see where they cycle through. I assume Hammer will come through into first place, but I'm unsure actually. We'll have to wait for the timing and scoring to update as we watch the Ryan Meenan brothers, or siblings, or friends, cousins, we don't know, but they are indeed fighting each other still. And you may have noticed that Cormac himself now is out front in this battle, and he's not really pulling away, is he?
So, yes. I apologize to interrupt you, Jesse, but I'm checking in on the leaders really quick. 2.7 seconds. Hammer is still behind Smith, but it ain't much.
Yes, so maybe that was the strategy from Elvin Smith and his 191 Ferrari this entire time, was to get a big enough lead, or potentially just run to his number so he could take less fuel to get to this point. And now he has a little bit of lead, and perhaps he has fresher tires. Certainly he has started to widen out that gap already, up above 3 seconds now. But is he still, with less than 10 to play, is Rubio still a contestant to win this race, Mike Jones?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think that Hammer will obviously make it up there. He's just not going to have the pace. I would not be surprised to actually see Rubio come up on Hammer here, assuming that he doesn't need to pit, that is. Oh, and actually, we see Hammer going in right now. I'm just going to stop guessing at these pit stops. Granted, we are done at this point anyway. I believe that is the last pit stop that will happen. Would not be surprised to see this man come in for a splash and dash and try to keep in the top 10. But Rubio, it's going to be a hard call, right? Elvin Smith has now got enough fuel to make it. He doesn't have to hold back anymore. It was a relatively quick pit stop. I didn't catch enough of it to see maybe if he had gotten tires. Of course, it only takes 30 seconds to fill up fuel and tires in ACC for these GT3 mobiles. Not too much of a time, but did Elvin decide to take the tires? Or did he just go for about 20 liters of fuel, if that, and try and push to the end and keep that gap? Gap currently 8.5 seconds. Rubigeo's last posted time at a 1:44.0, which is a very respectable lap around here. Probably actually the fastest lap on the board last lap, in fact. So I'm curious to see the lap that Elvin Smith posts this time around, see if he can keep that gap. But that said, Rubigeo's got to catch about a second per lap here, which might just be a little too much of a stretch for him. As we go back over to Mr. Trugaleo here, of course, also part of Racing Line Motorsports, along with our 5th place Bianchi that we followed quite a bit today. And he will be fighting that 23rd position with Rommel, who, of course, we were following earlier, that had that penalty and dropped back into the field. Rommel definitely a little faster than Truglio today, but we'll see if he's able to get past him, as Truglio will have the advantage of being in front and having a little bit of slipstream potentially if he can catch up to that Lambo in front to try and keep his pace going for the final laps here. About 5 laps to go, Jesse.
Yeah, I just feel like every time that we've cut to the number 23 Porsche of Rommel that he's been beating the back bumper and tailpipes off of some car. And in a Porsche, he's beating the engine out of the back of that thing. Metaphorically, of course, there's been no contact, but look at this good close racing between the two. Truglio, oh, he's going to go wide here in the penultimate corner. That's going to give you an incredibly wide. That's going to give Rommel the ability to go around the outside and draw level. That might be enough to send him around, because, of course, the outside of the corner should have a better hole shot down the front straightaway, but of course they are both in Porsches, and they've done exactly that. They've drawn level, but Truglio will have the advantage going down into turn 1 as they're incredibly close. Oh, there's a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a touch, no harm, no foul. Rubbing is racing, as Mike Jones put earlier in the race, and they're still side by side as they go down into turn 3. Don't get it wrong here, lads. You're doing an excellent job. Still side by side. No corner given and none asked as they attempt to go up the hill. And now it is all settled out, and Rommel has taken that position. Beautiful driving.
Oh, that was absolutely fantastic. That was 4 corners of side-by-side racing. You just don't see that very often. Here in GT3 racing especially. Usually you get the guys kind of slide out of the corner, get back behind, and try to make a run coming into the next one, but these guys just did not want to give up. They were side by side all the way down. Of course, Rommel, as we talked about earlier, overall in the race has been a little bit faster than Truglio, which probably helped him out in that regard. Now that said, can Rommel chase down that 15th position? I think he's got a little bit of work to put into him to be able to get up to that, but he might be able to. As mentioned earlier, he was in the top 5 before we believe he got a penalty early on in the race. He's got the pace to get back up there. Of course, he's chasing Zeman in the Lambo in front of him. As we cut back to our favorite potential family, brother, friend duo here, Cormac and Killian. Still fighting. At some points, of course, the Aston of the 58 Cormac did slide back by the Audi, but he's got a few more laps to keep fighting here, and they ain't going to give up. Would not be surprised to see this battle keep going as one of our most exciting battles here towards the end of the race. Now, Jesse, Rubigeo is posting laps about 3/4 faster than Elvin Smith.
Right.
Unfortunately, we've only got about 3 laps left in 7 seconds.
Indeed.
I don't know about you, but I think unless there's something happen here and we start talking commentator's curse, as we like to do, Elvin Smith may have this one settled with the way he did his pit stops.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Rubio is now, look at it, he's clawing every sector. He's clawing a massive amount of time out of it. But if Elvin Smith hangs on to win this race, as we continue to watch this battle between what we can only assume are family members or relations in some way, they just continue. And one thing about this battle is I expected the Aston Martin, the Cormac-driven 58 Aston Martin, to sort of drive away from the Audi, but that hasn't come to pass. But back to Elvin Smith for a second. If he somehow wins this race by virtue of having an excellent strategy, as we see the chicane there, it's a little bit wrong, but no harm, no foul there. But if Rubio does finish second, because he continues to get closer, I'm going to start calling Elvin Smith the Einstein of sim racing. I mean, how else could you have known that you would have the smallest of gap and just enough to in the tank and on the racetrack to cover your rivals? That's proper Formula One stuff. That's brilliant driving.
And keep in mind, this man is doing this without the help of a race engineer or the 9,000 other people that are on these F1 teams as well. He came into this race all by himself. He has to set up the pit stops by himself inside of his menus and do all of this and still keep this gap. Of course, Rubio is catching him, but with 2 minutes or so left on this race, it's going to be hard pressed to get there. Now, someone in the chat did just bring up a really good point here, as we see Romero now fighting with our favorite duo here. Jesse, this is for 10th place. This is a 10th place finish these guys are fighting for. That might heat this battle up some.
Yeah, it absolutely will, Mike, because you want to finish inside the top 10. I talk about this every time when I do a race for RLM. I talk about how if you are this car in particular, or not this car, but the car directly in front of me, of course, right up with the 37 Aston Martin of Romero at the moment, he can see the battle clearly in front of him, and he will certainly be the one that benefits from any sort of mishap, contact, or even just side-by-side racing. He will be the beneficiary. But between these two here, now looking back at the number 1, 2, 3 Audi, if he somehow pulls this off, you're in 11th place, that Audi is, and you're looking at 10th going, 10th is better than 11. And that's how a racing driver thinks. They're effectively a racehorse. They only know one thing, and that's win. And if finishing 10th instead of 11th is a win, it is a win. But just as I say that, you saw it live on the screen. On off track, a ever so slight off track for the 1, 2, 3 has issued him a drive-through penalty. So regardless, unless it's cleared for some reason, he will not be given that position. But that doesn't matter to him, because he's now fighting with Romero, who has not only caught them but has passed him. Look, Romero is now looking to spoil the party here and send everybody to bed angry. He has the potential for a top 10 here, as he's going to have to go around the outside of Ryan Meenan now. Can't quite get it done, and because of that, he's left the door open. There's a touch, there's a spin, and that is not how you wanted to end your race with 10 seconds left.
Oh, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, it looked like the 1, 2, 3 Audi did kind of get in there. I'd be curious to look at that from another perspective later, but that said, that Audi was definitely deep into that pocket. Aston just got a little too close to him, I think. Of course, it's really hard to tell from our angle, not being the drivers themselves, but that's unfortunate for Romero. That said, one heck of a race by him. He definitely had the pace to push into 10th spot, but that battle will look like it will go to the Ryan Meenan company. And we'll see, as Monka actually given a little bit of a run here to Proudly. This is going to be the battle for 8th place as we come into the final quarter of the penultimate lap. They are so close coming around here. Monka gonna get back behind him in this Porsche, and we'll see if he's able to get a run into the last corner, or the first corner rather, of the last lap here. Gonna go on the outside. He is clear already, but can he keep it? How late can that man brake? Apparently as much as he would like to, because he just made the cleanest pass I have seen on the outside of T1 in a while. Absolutely fantastic braking by Monka. Absolutely fantastic. And that should put him into 8th place. Again, final lap going on here. Proudly's not going to give it up. As Elvin Smith crosses the finish line, that is the finish for him. A full, I believe, 4 or 5 seconds ahead of Mr. Rubio, as we see him cross the line as well. Ismail coming in 3rd place. Noskowski finishing up in 4th. Bianchi's going to come across the line here momentarily to lock in 5th place. And we're going to cut back briefly to Bonka, and it looks like Proudly has fallen back a little bit. Unless Bonka makes any particular mistakes, would not be surprised to see him latch onto that 8th place. Back down in the 10th position, the Ryan Meenan has crossed the finish line in 10th place. Of course, his potential family member there got the 80-second penalty due to the drive-through that he decided not to serve. Don't blame him a bit. Would have done the same thing at that point. Went ahead and wrapped up that race. I wouldn't have given him any sort of quarter, but it will drop him a couple positions in the end. And we're going to see these guys coming across the finish line. And as far as we could tell, Bonka just took off on that last lap. Proudly had no chance to get back by him. And that will lock in our top 19 finishers across the line now. Jesse, that was one exciting 90 minutes. I'm a little out of breath.
Yeah, I'm out of breath, and I think I'm actually sitting over here, a little TMI for you guys. I'm sweating just by watching these guys. That's how intense this is. And one thing's for sure, we brought you 90 minutes of Hungaroring GT3 action tonight in what we called a pro split. These were the baddest of the bad, the fastest of the fast, and the cleanest of the clean. And I think that we showed that off extraordinarily well this evening, and that's exactly what I expect. Congratulations to THR's own Elvin Smith, who drove his 181 Ferrari to victory here. No stranger to victory lane. Wouldn't even have to show him where it is, because he certainly knows how to get wins in an excellent race that kept us all guessing all night long. And I gotta say to every single driver in this field, thank you guys for putting on a show. Thank you for racing as cleanly and as awesome as you guys did in the battles. It was just about a perfect race.
Yeah, just about, Jesse. I mean, I'm looking over at my broadcasting tool right now, and I don't even have to slide down on my penalty list here. All of the touches and everything that happened fits onto one page in a full 90 minutes, and even then, doesn't even cover the whole page. And I've got a pretty big monitor over here, and that is just awesome to see after 90 minutes of racing. So again, just to round out the finishers here, Elvin Smith coming in first, Rubajeo in that Merc 66 coming in second, Ismail 3rd place, Mikowski 4th, Bianchi for Racing Line Motorsports finishing up in 5th. Absolute fantastic showing by them. And anything particular there you've noticed, Nick, that you want to wrap up with?
I just got to say, as you mentioned, a very clean, professional level race. We would expect nothing less from these drivers. Very exciting to watch, and it was an honor to run at the cameras for this event, to catch those intimate battles that we were seeing all the way around the track, kept it consistent for the entire race. We obviously saw Smith sneak it away from Rubajeo there. And yeah, just all around a solid race, very clean and very professional.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic racing today, guys. I believe RLM will be back tomorrow. We have a race with the Porsche Cup cars tomorrow at Bathurst. We will be live. Let me check on the time for that. Do you know the time for that offhand, Jesse?
I do, actually. That's actually on Monday, guys. No racing here at RLM tomorrow, but on Monday. And I believe the practice for that starts at 1900 British Standard Time. Race starts at 2030 British Standard Time. It's a 75-minute race. It's another one-off special race that we have, and we hope that you'll join us for that. It's Porsche Cup Big Grid at Bathurst. We're packing 50 bad boys on the mountain, and we hope that you will join us here live on Twitch for that event coming up Monday. And thank you guys for all the follows and everything today, and we appreciate you guys coming out and supporting your drivers and supporting us. And Mike, I think you have an announcement about an upcoming championship that starts soon.
I sure do. You know, Jesse, before we wrap up this race here, just another notice for you guys. The Night Owl Championship here at RLM and we'll be running starting May 9th is qualifying. Of course, you can check our Discord and website for information about that. And May 9th will be our qualifying event. Looks like we're going to have about 4 splits for that. So it should be really awesome racing. It's going to be running at the same time this event has started, which is practice time at 3 p.m. Pacific or 11 p.m. British Standard Time, or summertime, I believe it is. And races will run for 60 minutes. Of course, with our 5-race calendar, our 5th race at Bathurst, our finale will be 90 minutes. So anyone who enjoys the North American time zone, or perhaps just stays up a little later over in Europe, come on over, sign up for the races, and it should be an exciting time. Jesse and Nick will be commentating those races, and I'll be joining everybody out on the track. Of course, I will likely be joining you out in the bottom split, not the pro split. As Jesse and I have discussed, the commentator's curse is that we get more commentating in than racing, and as such, are perhaps a little slower. But we'll make it work, boys. Anyway, guys, we will see you back Monday for the Porsche Cup Bathurst race at, again, 1900 BST. I've been Mike Jones. With me here commentating, Jesse Lee, and of course running cameras is Nick Setnick. Appreciate you guys today. Hope everyone